that the intensity is still very regular. In Kyiv, literally every night we have this alarm system going on, because literally every night Russia, they send their drones at Ukraine and in Kyiv especially.
Hello everyone, this is Andrew and Daphne. Our guest today is Volodia. Now, we've had Volodia on a few times, so go back, watch some of those previous episodes. And also, I think on the previous episodes, we said that if you wanted to get in touch with Volodia, we'll put our email in the description box so you can reach out to us and then we can look at making a connection. But Volodia, for people that haven't heard those episodes, can you just say a bit about where you're from and what you do?
Hello, Daphne. Hello, Andrew. And thank you for this wonderful opportunity to meet with you and with all of those who are going to watch this podcast. And I'm Volodia, or my full name is Volodymyr. And I am from Kyiv, Ukraine, and I have been living here for the last more than 30 years. And, as the war started, my primarily goal was first to take care of my children, my grandchildren, before I got settled into the new calling which God had for me here in Ukraine. And, for many years, for almost 20 years, I've been involved in a cross-cultural mission work. It was my primarily calling. But with this war starting, I just felt that, well, first of all, it's not possible now in Ukraine to be involved in a cross-cultural mission work. It's one thing. And secondly, we as a Ukrainian church, we cannot effectively fulfill this mission unless this war would be won. Because unfortunately, what we see already from those territories, Ukrainian territories, which were occupied by Russians, all evangelical churches, they were kicked out. All evangelical churches, they are forbidden to exist. Many evangelical Christians, they were persecuted. So we know unless Russia takes Ukraine, there would be no more evangelical church here, the way it is now. So personally, I think that this war, it's against God's church. And so we have to fight in this war, not only to protect Ukraine as a country, as our homeland, but we have to protect it as a place given to us by God, where we can minister and which we can use as a base to minister to the rest of the world. And so for the more than 2 years, I've been involved in a chaplain's work here in Ukraine.
Okay, and Ukraine, when the war starts with Russia, it's all over the news, everyone's talking about it. And with all these kinds of situations, wars or famines or whatever it is, they're often in the news and then gradually they disappear. But they're often still going on, just people aren't talking about it anymore. We had the terror attack in Israel, the wars which have happened since, so that's dominated the news. Ukraine's kind of disappeared into the background. But we then had this meeting with Zelensky and J.D. Vance and Trump in the US, and now Ukraine,
everybody's talking about it.
It's back in the
news.
All over
the
Everyone's
place.
talking about it, good or bad. Either way, it's back in the news. So we'll talk a bit about that in a minute. But before we go there, can you just give a bit of an update? How are you as a family doing? Where is everyone right now?
Well, I'm right now in Kyiv. And last November, my wife, she returned from Norway here. So we felt that her time of exile is over. Now she is back. And also in January, my youngest daughter, she also returned to Kyiv from Norway. So 3 of us are living now here together. And my youngest son, who is 18, last year, he felt a calling to be in the military, so he is studying at the military institute. And of course, it's very challenging, especially during the wartime. But I know that that is a calling for him, and my only prayer for him that he would keep his faith, because he is still very young, and I know that it's important to keep the faith. And unfortunately, from what I see now during the war, there are some Christian men who are at war. They lose their faith. So I know that it's important to preserve our faith during those challenges. And if you don't have a faith, that person would come to the Lord. So this is where we are now.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because most parents, you'd said the thing I pray for him most would be to keep him safe. That's what most parents would say. But that isn't the bottom line. And I'm not surprised that you said that, but I just wanted to highlight that moment that you said it.
And what's the intensity like right now in Kyiv in terms of attacks, rockets? Because I think in maybe the last one or the one before that, it was quite intense. What is it like right now, especially after the meeting with Trump and Zelensky?
Mm-hmm. I would say that the intensity is still very regular. In Kyiv, literally every night we have this alarm system going on, because literally every night Russia, they send their drones at Ukraine and in Kyiv especially. And you probably understand that because Kyiv is a capital, it has a quite good air defense system. So basically that the biggest problem, that is the remnants of drones or objects which were hit, they can just fall down somewhere and by this produce the destructions. But basically it's happening every night. So we have a joke already. So if you go to sleep and you don't hear the alarm, then it's something not normal, so you cannot sleep. But you hear alarm, now you can go to sleep. Everything is fine. Everything is normal.
You live in a topsy-turvy world. Oh dear.
Yeah.
And so then, okay, so everyone's talking about this meeting that took place. And what are your thoughts after this meeting? And give us your thoughts from what happened.
Okay, thanks for the question. Maybe I just would like very, very briefly to go into the history. Because for most the foreigners, this war is something which just happened now. Like before everything was fine, but now all of a sudden something happened. Maybe some new rulers, they lost their mind and they have this war. But unfortunately, this conflict between Russia and Ukraine has been lasting for the last, 5-6 centuries. Because from the time when Russia started to appear, and originally it was not called Russia, it was called like a Moscow state, something like this. Their primarily purpose was to submit Ukraine. So for centuries, Ukrainian language, culture, arts was prohibited. And Russian culture was trying to be uplifted. So it was going on for the centuries. And as I said, I'm not going into the details into that. But I just said that to say that this hostility between the two nations, it's already like in a genes. Like from Russian side, they feel superior towards Ukrainians. And of course, this situation which happens can be interpreted differently, and it's definitely that I would speak now from Ukrainian perspective, how we see it. And also, after this meeting happened, I specifically spoke to some soldiers because I wanted to know their opinion. Because, as you know, one of the consequences of this conflict was that US said that now we are not going to give to Ukraine military supplies. And like for me as a civilian, it's okay, to be without military supply. But for our soldiers at the front line, it means that they would have no means to repel Russian attacks. So I specifically asked them, what do you think about this conflict? And most of them, they said that now they started to respect our president even more than before. Because before this meeting, our president was not respected as much as he is respected now. Even those people who were against him, they said now we started to respect him. Because he had a guts, to stand for the dignity of his personal dignity as a man and to stand for the dignity of Ukraine. Because even if we go back into 1994, and this is one of the reasons why Ukraine, in a sense, demanding help from United States. Because in 1994, Ukraine had a third largest nuclear weapon in the world. And by request and demand of United States and Russia, they gave it away to United States and Russia. And probably you know that United States, Great Britain and Russia, they signed so-called Budapest Memorandum, according to which they guarantee Ukraine security and protection in a case of danger. So this is how we look at this situation. And from one side, we are proud for our president that he was not there as a boy with the big boys who came to beat him. But from the other side, of course, there is a concern that now we as Ukraine, we do not receive necessary military equipment and intelligence information, which we also need. But as a Christian, from my Christian perspective, I just think God wants to show us, because as Christians we understand this. But here in Ukraine, many people, before Trump was elected, they put their trust in him. They were thinking now he would come to power and things would change for better in Ukraine. So as a Christian, I think God wants to show us that we need to trust him. We shouldn't trust any man, however powerful he can be, but we need to trust only God. And eventually, I believe it would be only God's sovereign hand which would deliver Ukraine from the enemy.
Yeah, I think for anyone caught in these kinds of situations, to have all their trust in a government, I don't know how you would do that. Like, even if my party is in power, I still don't completely trust them. I have what I would call a healthy distrust of everyone in politics, and to ultimately be focused on God and putting all my trust in him that he will figure these things out. He knows what's going on and is working out his plans and purposes. One of the sort of the big statements from Trump coming out of that meeting was that he didn't believe Zelensky wanted peace. Mm-hmm. And that maybe he wants to continue this war for a bit longer, and that's why he wants the support so that it continue to fight. What's your take on that? That Zelensky, he doesn't believe actually wants to have peace right now.
I would say that all people in Ukraine, we would like to have peace, but we don't need peace at any cost, because as I said, as I told you before, we have a long history with Russia already, and in that history we have numerous times when Russia, they deliberately were breaking all peace agreements, and starting like even this recent history from 2014, when this war actually started. There were so many peace agreements, and all of them, they were broken by Russia. That is why Zelensky and all of us, he was talking about guarantees. because from at least what I saw, everyone was talking which sacrifices Ukraine should make in order to have peace. But nobody was saying which sacrifices Russia should make. Because we also hear Russian politicians who say what they want, and we understand that it's not possible. Because for them to have peace, we need, as Ukraine, need to give them even that land which is not yet conquered by them, which is totally impossible. Because it's not just the land. We are talking about the people with their homes. And, here in Kyiv, we work with internally displaced people. And, it's very sad to watch the people, especially the elderly people, who by the end of their life, they lost their home. They're now like homeless people. And this is like a pain which is always with them. And if we do it again with those people who are still now at Ukrainian territory, it means that they would have to leave their homes. Because even like, for example, if we presume that Russia would come here, it would mean that all people like myself, at least we would be all deported, or we would be sent to prison because we were working against Russia. And this is not possible for them. So Ukraine wants peace, but not on the conditions which we are suggested at the moment.
The other key thing is that he said for Europe, we have been loaning you the money. And so the idea would be eventually Ukraine would pay back the finances that have been provided to help fund some of the war. And he was saying that America has just given away money. They haven't expected it in return. So there's this deal for minerals, so that the US would recoup their finances through the minerals. And do you have thoughts on that? But also, in doing so, would you see that as a measure of security as well, in that now the US has a vested interest in Ukraine and not just having Russia come in and attack, and then that messes with the US's gains from the minerals?
Probably I would not comment the legal part of this, because things I know is just from the news, and as we well know, news can say whatever it is beneficial for them. But I feel that if this mineral agreement would really give security and guarantee for Ukraine, it would be good. Because I believe even our President Zelensky, he said that it is fine if we work together, if we cooperate together with this. Because as I've heard somebody said, in order even physically to take those minerals, it would take dozens of years, because those minerals, they are in very complicated form to excavate it and take it out. So we are talking about dozens of years of cooperation. So in general, it would be good. But again, as I told you, moral state, United States signed the document where they agreed to protect Ukraine. So in a sense, we are asking for what they signed for. And also, as I said, when Ukraine gave up of their nuclear weapon to United States and to Russia, that nuclear weapon was the price of billions of dollars.
Yeah, so I guess the concern is we already had an agreement signed that you would provide some kind of protection.
Yeah.
What's going to be different about this one?
Yeah.
And what's the guarantee that there is some kind of security included within this agreement?
Yeah, because even like when Joe Biden was still at power, him and Zelensky, they signed some 10-year agreement that US would support Ukraine. Now with Trump at power, he cancelled all those agreements, and now he wants to have a new agreements. So for us, it's also, does it mean that now with every new president, all previous agreements would be cancelled and new agreements would be imposed?
This is really informative because we hear the news, and certainly over here, and I would say worldwide, we don't get this background information or understand the nuances of what's been going on. Are things at the minute with Zelensky and Trump?
Well, it seems to me, but again, that is my personal subjective opinion, you understand,
Yeah.
that because Zelensky, he stood firm during that meeting, now Trump's rhetoric become not that aggressive. And I know that there are some negotiations going on in Saudi Arabia, and I don't know yet the outcome of it. But it seems, because, for Russia, it's also an awkward position. Because before the Trump, they used to say that US is our enemy, and fighting in Ukraine, we are not fighting with Ukraine, but we are fighting with America and with NATO. But now, when Trump began to play a game more favorable for Russia, they say, well, America now is our friend. So for many Russians, especially those who are fighting, that is like a double-mindedness. So come on, here you were used to tell us that America is our enemy. Now you say that America is our friend. And yeah.
That is something that Trump is good at, negotiating and working with parties that are opposing and winning trust over. But the way he does it takes people by surprise, and you have to sit back and work out what on earth he's doing.
Yeah, I would tell you. Yeah, so I would tell you honestly, at the end we would know that it was just his brilliant game to take Russia down. I would say, Trump, sorry, you are a great politician.
Yeah, sometimes the ride can be a bit bumpy, but hopefully the final destination is the dream that you hope for. One of the other things that we've seen are people talking about this issue of NATO, and that there was an agreement with Russia that NATO would not spread towards Russia. And there was this agreement, but since that agreement, NATO has recruited certain countries which are closer to Russia. And then I know when this war really started, this was more in the media, the issue of NATO, Ukraine joining NATO. And I think Russia was saying, well, hang on, but there was this agreement. What's your stance on that side of things?
From my perspective, that is just an excuse for Russia. Why they want to take Ukraine? Because for Russia, for Putin, about the power of Soviet Union when it was existing. And in a sense, Russia wants to restore it. And Russia cannot restore it without Ukraine. In order to do it, Ukraine needs to be a part of Russian ally. And, before we started to have these events in 2014, I would tell you that the population of Ukraine were divided. 50% wanted to join European Union, 50% wanted to join Russia and to be Russian allies. But because of these Russian moves, most of the people, they started slowly to shifting towards towards the European nation and to NATO, because they saw their security for themselves. So I would say that most of the people, most of the population in Ukraine, they don't want to be part of Russia or to be Russian ally. And all these talkings about Russia doesn't want to have NATO at their border, it's just an excuse, because they have Poland, they have those three Baltic countries, they have Finland, which joined NATO just as the war started. So they have NATO much closer to them than Ukraine.
At the beginning, you said something about we need to win this war. And where we are right now, what for you would look like winning the war?
Well, for me, to win the war, of course, the ideal situation
Yeah.
would be for Russia to leave all the occupied territories and go back home, because we don't want, though they brought a lot of grief to Ukraine, but we don't want them, to die here. Let them go and die at home. So it would be the ideally. But it's hard to say whether it would be really possible. And even I would say if the situation would be not just frozen, because, the situation can be frozen where it is now as it was before, and then it just means that the conflict or the war can start any moment again. So there should be some international guarantees, internationally admitted agreements, so the war can be stopped and the country can start going through the process of rebuilding, renovation and restoration. So because now as a church we have a huge exit everywhere. Because one good thing which war did for us, that as a church we have access to all levels of society, even in politics as well, and even on the government levels, in the city levels. Just literally yesterday, our team, we were conducting a special 4-day retreat for the women, wives and mothers of the soldiers. And our team leaders, together with the local pastor, they went and they meet with the head of the military administration of that town, talking about cooperation. It would never be possible before. But now we have a huge access to as I said, to different spheres of society. So for me to stop the war, when the all military activity stopped, and whatever would be the reason, so our soldiers can go back to their families. And of course, then we would have more work to do, because as they're there, it's harder to work with them. But when they're back home, there would be a huge work to do. But still, then you do it during a peacetime where soldiers can relax and not think about going to war again.
How would you feel at the end of this if the agreement is that there's this mineral deal, so that's signed, that it means that Ukraine has to give up some of these territories that have been taken over by Russia? How would you feel if that was the sort of the end scenario?
Ukraine right now, well, people in Ukraine, of course, and I'm not talking now from Christian perspective, okay? So you understand this. People in Ukraine, as all of us, when you see injustice, you want to see revenge. You want to see how unjust person he pays for what he did. And this is, in general, what people in Ukraine, they want to see. They want to see how Russia pays for what they did. Because you eyewitnessed what happened in Israel. And but imagine, like, what you eyewitness, the same thing is going in Ukraine on a regular basis for the last 3 years. Again and again, in one area, in another area, then again in the same area. So it's going on and on, creating pain which is getting bigger and bigger. So, of course, people would like to see a revenge. People would like to see Russia pay for what they did, and not only in money, but in criminal cases. But unfortunately, this is things which only God can do, because even, that International Criminal Court, they issued an order for Putin, and still they cannot execute this order. And so what can we say?
Of course, you have to. I mean, in a small way, it is similar to Israel, Ukraine, which is comparatively small compared with Russia, being asked to give Russia, this enormous nation, some land, which is a mirror of what's going on with Israel. It doesn't make any logical sense, never mind anything else.
Yeah, exactly, because Russia is a very big and very rich country. They have enough their own resources. I think it's just a spirit, this spirit which is behind all this. The spirit which causes you to take more, to take what does not belong to you and what you actually even don't need.
Well, we've talked about many things. I think many listeners will be.
Oh. Okay, I don't know what happened there. I guess he'll come back. Okay, so with the beauty of recording online is that sometimes we have technical issues.
I would say, particularly when we're in the UK and he's in a country like Ukraine in the middle of a war.
So he has cut off. We have been efforting to get him back on again, and it's not working as of right now. So we're going to wrap up, and if he comes back on, then we'll put this at the end, and you'll see what was going on. But hopefully this episode will help to give some perspective from someone in Ukraine about what happened with President Trump, Zelensky, giving his thoughts, his perspectives on it all, but also just continuing to remind ourselves of, what's the realities on the ground, the of the people that he's engaging with.
So please, as it's all in the news at the minute and hardly anyone will get an inside perspective from people on the ground, do pass this on, let's get this out there, and do please consider supporting Volodia. This isn't something that we say on. We're just grinding up Volodia and asking.
Just in case we couldn't get you back on.
Yeah.
And we just got to the point where we were thanking you for speaking up, thanking you for getting the word out. And I was just in the process of saying this is not something that we say. If you listen to us regularly, you'll have trouble going back to find us saying this, but we are asking you, there will be a link below, if you could support financially Volodia. He's out there. Please do so. Even if you can just do a one-off, the donate button will be down there.
And Volodia, since as we have now got you back, this is going to be a crazy ending to this episode, people watching it. Have you got any sort of final thoughts that you would like to say to people before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would just want to finish maybe with the things that, first of all, we should be kingdom-minded people, but not politically minded people. And kingdom, the values of the kingdom should be our priorities.
Well, we got that.
This is a roller coaster of an end. So Volodia was saying,
we need to be kingdom-minded people.
Being kingdom-minded. And not political-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sound advice. So please pass this on, as crazy as this finish has been. And
now may a piece falling out. We just have to have Volodya back on again to finish the thing off, and we need him back soon because this is the best way we do to know what's going on in Ukraine.
I guess he's just leaving on a cliffhanger there. So I have no idea how I'm going to edit this down. Already getting a headache thinking about it. But for those of you that listen and watch the podcast, thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate Volodia. and all the work that he's doing. We've known him for a very long time, and he's a trustworthy person and someone that, again, like Daphne said, if you want to support him, please, we'll leave information in the description box below for you to do that. 100% of the support goes to him to be able to help with the work that he's doing on the front lines in helping to serve and encourage people there. So from us and Volodia, wherever he is right now, thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to this episode. Remember, if it inspired you, share it with others so we can see more people engaged in this community.